Hello, this is Crystal Meach with Tao of the Heart, and today my guest is Meg Grett-Pratt, and she has a business called Dating Tips by Meg, and we're just going to dive in like we always do and ask her how she got started.
Well, I would say I got started due to my own personal experience. So, Dating Tips by Meg is a nonprofit agency. I'm a speaker at Dating Tips by Meg, and we talk to teens and young adults, basically usually girls, about the early signs of dating abuse and stalking. And about 2013, I met a man, and I was going through a divorce. Decided to date, and bad things happen when you date, but then 6 months realized, like, when I getting punched in the face, that, oh, this is a really bad experience. And I honestly just didn't know what was happening. I didn't realize that the dating abuse happened. I was naive to think enough that it was just happened when you are in a relationship with someone you're married to and have behind closed doors, that kind of thing. And the truth is it happens more and more often, and a lot to young people, the teens, and 16 to 24 is the highest rate that affects them with violence and stalking. So after that, after it kind of settled down in for 6 months, yeah, we dated for 6 months, had a physical assault, so, decided I was leaving this situation. For 7 more years, he stalked me just incessantly through, in person and through digital means. And I basically had no idea how to make it stop. And so when it did stop, I decided I was going to study digital forensics. And so digital forensics, because a lot of it was digital stalking, and a lot of people don't believe that, all these things are happening to you. And so I studied that for 2 years and just realized that I would only be able to help like one person with one device. And I personally had 12 devices over the course of that time that would need, digital forensics and need studied. And so I had been sharing my story with different people, and people just were, it's an interesting story. You have a lot to say. I think that this could be how you can impact and help other people by sharing your story and letting them know it happens to other people. And so I started speaking and focusing on high school and colleges, even now going down to some of the middle schoolers, but just letting them know that you're not alone, and it's scary, but there's people out there that can help you. And that the biggest thing is giving people the red flags, letting them recognize early off so that they have some inkling of what's happening. They're not like, a lot of people think that if that's their first relationship, that this is normal. And for me, that was the first relationship I ever had that was abusive. And so I didn't think it was normal, but I didn't think it was an abusive relationship. And so I hadn't identified it as an abusive relationship. And is key for getting help and getting out of a relationship. So that's kind of how Dating Tips came to be in 2021. And so now we're here about 2 years later and still focusing on building awareness and prevention.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, your story, when you first started, you said something about like he punched you, was it?
Yeah, it was. So one night or one weekend, I had gone away for the whole time I was with him in 6 months. I basically became totally isolated, and I'm a big family person, so it was kind of, oh wow, I get to go somewhere. So I went to see my family. Um, I was like, I'm gonna do everything right. I'm not gonna upset him. I'm gonna be back on time. I'm gonna be happy when I get back. Do all the things right. Well, little did I know that he had cameras in my car and a GPS tracker. And so before I'd even arrived home, I'd gotten a message on my phone saying, "Did you make it home all right? Did you make it home safe?" And it was someone I'd met over that weekend, and not someone I met romantically, but it was a family friend, and he got the message before I did because he has stalkerware on my phone. And so when I got home, he was ready for a fight, and I had no clue what was getting ready to happen. But it was the first time I'd ever been physically assaulted, and it went from there. And he just, for 5 hours, back and forth and back and forth, and he literally punched me in the face. And I was laid on the ground and just scurried to get back up because he was trying to kick me with his boots. I was just like, oh my God, what's happening here? And that was the night I realized a lot of things. Like, one, he'd been stalking me while we were still in the relationship. And I, again, didn't know people stalked you while you were in the relationship with them. And then realized that, this is a very violent person. He's very upset about this, and he's accusing me of things I didn't do. And so, yeah, that was that was the night that my eyes kind of came open for the relationship as far as it being abusive.
So you knew that it was wrong, but did you feel like you didn't know how to get out?
There was that part where I tried probably about 3 months in. He was very big about like vegetables and meat and potatoes, and everything had to be always like everything on his plate kind of thing. And I was, I'd been a wife. I like cooking. I like doing those kind of things, but I was like, this just maybe isn't for us. And he was like, no, you're kind of staying. And there would be that honeymoon period again. And I guess I didn't know that I was trying to get out of something. During that 6 months, I went to the hospital 3 different times thinking that I was dying basically, because my stomach was like so upset, that like really bad upset during that time. But it was my instincts telling me, this is wrong. You need to get out of this. And I just didn't know how to listen to my instincts at that point in time. I didn't realize that that was a warning system that was really important, saying this is not for you. This is dangerous. Get out of this relationship. And so I didn't know I needed to get out until that evening I had him arrested, and I had to go see an advocate from a safe house, and to because there was a protection order against him. And that was the night where the day where someone said, here's all the things that you checked on 25 items that are abusive. You checked 23 items have been occurring in your relationship. You're in a very volatile, abusive relationship. And I had no clue that I was in something. And so that was probably the first time I thought I need to get out of something, past the night of being punched in the face. It was like, oh my gosh, I need to escape this. And he wasn't in the mood for letting me get out of the relationship. I mean, he made it very clear you weren't getting out. And I even said, I'll drop the charges. There's multiple charges that happened after that for violating all these things, and more occurrences and more violence. But I was like, I want out. I don't care. I just want to be done with you. And I definitely took the help of the safe house to try to get me out. I ended up living in a safe house 3 times to try to get away from this person. And they were the people who kind of coached me along, like how you're going to get out, how safely to get out. There was really no safe way, because he just kept tracking me, either through my phones or through my car. And so getting out was definitely difficult. And when it ended, I was at my wit's end. I didn't think it was really going to ever end.
And so, I mean, you're really a beacon for hope for a lot of women, because they are in that state of despair, and they may not even know that they're in that type of relationship, and
right,
or even how to get out. So what do you say to those women that they've got the gut feeling, but
right. Well, that there is hope. I mean, the person I know that there's a police, and I'm not discounting the police at all, but I think that one really important element to getting help and getting out is getting out safely, because it's the most dangerous time in the relationship, if you're already in an abusive relationship, is trying to get out of it. And so people know, like, if I try to leave, he's going to kill me, or if I try to leave, this is going to take away my kids, is to find a local advocate. Either you can call a national hotline, the domestic violence hotline, you can call the dating violence hotline. They can connect you to a local advocate, and it's a victims advocate. And these people are the people who are trained. They know what stalking is. They know what domestic violence looks like. They know that it's been hard, and that you have tried and you can't get out. They're on your side, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is you have these people who are just there and like totally understand your situation, and they have all these ideas of how to keep you safe. And so that's like kind of avenue I'd start with. And they know you have to keep secrets, and that it's hard for you to make a phone call, or it may be hard to do a video conference because someone may be always watching what you're doing. And so that element, I think, is really important if you're trying to get out, and that there is hope, that maybe it's been years, maybe it's been just a month, maybe it's been a week. There's hope, that there's life on the other side of abuse, and that you're definitely worth it. So don't give up, and the other thing is don't be too hard on yourself. I took 7 times. I went back 7 times. Even though he tried to kill me 7 times, I went back 7 times, because he was threatening me. He was threatening my children. And it was more important for me, for my children to be safe, than my own safety. And so I did go back. And the average person goes back to their abuser 7 times before they actually get away from them. And so it's important to know that this is not, if you're lucky enough to get away the first time, hurrah, you're made it. That's amazing. If it takes 7, 8, 9 times, they understand that. The advocates don't go, oh, well, you made a mistake, you went back to them. They understand that they are, your abuser is going to employ lots of different ways to get you back, and you may have to go back, but don't give up. Then they'll give you like lots of safety things. We call it safety plan to, what can I do if this happens? What can I do if this happens? What should I do if he shows up at my work? Those kind of things. So I think it's really important to know that there's help out there, and that don't give up on yourself, and don't be so hard on yourself if you don't get away the first time, that, it still can happen.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, those support systems for you and your children, like the safe house. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, how people can find those resources.
Definitely. The people I worked with in the beginning, they were from this. It was called the Safe House Project, but that's where the advocates worked in the local agency. So they're likely to connect you. They're the ones who will know about the safe houses. You can Google safe houses, but it's great if you have an advocate or someone you've been working with that can they're kind of your in as far as helping you and saying, this is her situation. This is what we've tried. This is why the safe house is necessary for this person. They need safe places to land, or they need a safe place to like get away from this person. Yeah, I lived in a safe house for 6 months, and he located me at the safe house one night in the middle of the night, and I had to be moved. And so I moved to a different safe house across the state, which was a higher security safe house. And at that safe house, here, when you have technology involved, unfortunately, I was doing something kind of stupid, is that I get a new phone and I'm thinking, oh, I'm free from this person. But I was using my download or my backup to download all my programs and stuff. And you don't know where the stalkerware or the spyware is coming in from. And so I was basically reloading all that tracking software, all that spyware right back onto my phone every time. So it wasn't that hard to basically find me every time. I got new cars thinking that would help. But then you have this, you have the phone who's kind of the backup tracker. And so it was difficult, but it did give me a place to like feel like inside these gates, inside this locked building, that he can't get me, because I basically stayed inside almost 24 hours a day. I went outside, but it was in a chain locked, had fences with little pokey things at the top, and I stayed there. And then I was dying to get back to my children, and so my children were living 6 hours away from me, and so I moved back to the other safe house, and it just felt like it was never going to end. And that was like 4 years into it. It still hadn't ended. And I moved around quite a bit during those 7 years, just thinking if I got a new place, if I got found a new house, he wouldn't have hidden cameras in my house, or if I had a new car, he wouldn't have a camera or a GPS on that car. But it just kept happening over and over again. And so, yeah, my final move was home, and I really didn't think I was going to make it past the home base. I thought that this was the end for me. I was done. I was calling it quits. And by some miracle, it stopped. And I started getting my life back, and it was COVID season, and my kids came back. They had, they were in school, they needed help in school. So I was, they came in and made me really, really happy to be able to be around them. And all the therapy I'd gone through really helped. I could actually implement it, versus when you're in a state of panic all the time, you really can't. It's not really helpful if it just keeps being attacked all the time. But it all just came together magically. And like by the end of the 6 months, I felt like 100% better than I had in years, because every day for 7 years, every single day, every single minute of your day, having someone like haunting you and taunting you or harassing you, you lose yourself. You go a little crazy. And I definitely was at that spot for quite a while. So it was good to be back to me when I finally came back. It was like, wow, I can take a breath again. I remember one day like going outside, not like looking around being scared, but going outside and going, oh my gosh, I just took a deep breath. I haven't taken a deep breath in years, because that's one of the therapy things people always tell you to do is take a deep breath. It'll feel better. And yeah, I had taken one for years. So, but the safe houses are there for you for a reason. Yeah, they help keep you safe. They help keep you inside. They have those emergency alarms. People who are on more, they're on guard as well, because they know you're in danger. You're there for a reason. So you feel like you kind of have this little protector around you, and it gives you a chance to like sleep at night is one thing. You're not worried all night long when you're by yourself what's going to happen to you. So.
Aww. Wow. I just like have like tears for you. Like what an amazing, amazing story. I mean, of survival and to make it through 7 years. I mean, wow, Meg. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I honestly didn't think I was going to make it. Like I had met with someone early on that said, if he says he's going to kill you, like his background and what he'd been involved in his life before, they had verified what he'd done in his life. And so they said, he probably will kill you. And my parents were sitting right there, and my ex-husband's sitting there, and like, what's happening? What's going on, and why is this going to happen to her? And so, living in that state of thinking you're going to be killed every moment of your every day for 7 years definitely took a toll on me. But I think that now I can come back and I can be helpful for other people, and I can
Oh,
sympathize, empathize, definitely.
yes, for sure. I mean, oh my goodness. Another thing, when we were talking last, we were talking kind of about like he had little cameras everywhere. And could you maybe talk about like those, where you found those little cameras and
Yeah.
how?
Well, the first one, he admitted he had a camera in the car because he had seen someone who I'd given a ride to. That's why he was so mad. That was the first time he hurt me, was he'd seen the person that was in my car, and it was a guy. It was a family friend. It was an innocent giving someone a ride to the bank. It was like less than 5 minute ride kind of thing. And then the home that we were living in at that point in time, we had 6 cameras, 3 cameras just to get into the home, and then 3 cameras within the home. And at one point I identified one of the little small ones, and it just looked like he had some antlers in the house, and it looked like it was just some, like, almost like a bone, but I couldn't quite figure out, but it was kind of like it was shiny, and I could see like that was hidden camera, and literally it's a pinpoint, like the end of a pin, how small that thing was. But it was attached to just a little wire because it was transmitting. But he knew when I left my house. He knew I was vulnerable, when I was sleeping, when I wasn't sleeping. The camera thing, he was able to break into my cars and my homes with no problem. So that was what his go-to was, is knowing every minute what you're doing. And no matter where I moved, you could feel, you kind of get an instinct, like, I feel like I'm being watched, and you were being watched, and it was these cameras. And so the cameras are hard to find. I mean, there's lots of different ways you can find these cameras in your homes, with lights, with your cell phone, with a radio frequency transmitter kind of thing. Just looking for some reflections. If those two-way mirrors people talk about, if you put your finger up there and there's no space between you and your finger on the mirror, it's a two-way mirror. That's kind of like one of those things. So you learn a lot of things about like how technology works and how to spot things. I still never found the camera in my car, and I implemented people's help. I just knew it was there because he had known, he knew exactly what had happened in the car. And so you're just always looking, and like things happening at precise moments when you weren't available. Like I was in my house 24 hours a day almost. The 1 minute I was gone, things would come in, and like things would be rearranged in my home. Someone knows exactly when you're like leaving your home, when you're out of a certain room, those kind of things. And they're so easy to buy. That's the other thing that makes it scary, is like, this isn't like someone who has to be a high tech, geek kind of person to run this kind of operation. It's $69 on Amazon, or it's not that difficult for people to get this equipment and install it. So I think I tell people, if you feel like something's happening, trust that feeling. Better safe than sorry, kind of thing. There's definitely checklists you can go through to say, is it this? Or like, does he know where you're at because he has access to your email, or has access to your calendar? Or does he know where you're at because he has a GPS tracker? Like, has your family like said something? Does he know a friend that would probably say, oh, she goes to the gym every night at this gym at 5 o'clock? Is that how he got the information? Or is it because he's listening to you or watching you? Kind of breaking down, like, why is it really happening to you?
So could someone contact you and like if they're having, if they think that they're being watched, which they probably are if instinctively they feel that way,
Right.
they can contact you and you can kind of like guide them through what, you know, finding that camera, or, finding out how the person is tracking you or stalking
Yes.
you.
Yeah, it's part of what I do is doing consulting, talking to people, and like, it's a 20-page checklist of things you can go through, but being able to do that for somebody, and like, there's a peace of mind whether you're like, you do or don't find a camera. You're just like, okay, I at least know, and I have some tools. You don't feel so vulnerable just like letting it happen, I guess, to you. You kind of feel like this is just happening to me and I don't know how to stop it. Because the other thing is, remember, and this is going a little bit deeper diving into the thing, but if you find these things, your first instinct is to rip something out and like just get rid of it. But that's also a very dangerous thing to do. Like if your stalker is watching you through a camera, or your boyfriend, or whoever it is watching you through a camera, and you remove that camera and they know you've removed it because they watched you do it, it's a really dangerous thing to do. So there's steps and ways to alleviate some of that danger by like either covering it up, knowing where the camera's at, just playing into knowing that the camera's there, things like that, to help keep you safe. Because like the phone, the first time I was like, I'm getting rid of it, I'm crushing this phone. I know that this phone's the evil aspect, but it wasn't the phone, it's the software within the phone. So getting a new phone and loading the phone again, that phone was just as evil as the one before that. So, and then they know when you've kind of destroyed the phone, they know that you found something, or if you try to remove something, and it kind of just heightens, if they lose access to you, what will they do next? And so remembering that is kind of in the back of your mind. Like, I know what you want to do is just get rid of it. It makes you feel dirty. It makes you feel like just creeped out. But being able to think about a little way in the way of safety, you kind of have to be just as smart as them in a way to not get hurt further, not escalate what's already happening. And likely they'll just reinstall a different camera that you didn't see, if they know you've removed it. But if you can play into the idea that, okay, I know that camera is right there every day, I'm not going to say anything, they can get my, give any more information to that person in front of that camera, or my phone, I'd put it underneath a pillow if I was going to say something, that was kind of, I didn't want someone to hear me griping about it. I'd just make it unavailable, but it wasn't destroyed at that point in time. It was just like, okay, I know that this is happening. Now I'm just going to do it the safer way.
That's so interesting that you say that, because it's you taking your power back by realizing they're watching you, and then knowing how to get out of that situation. And at that point, when you when you're aware that the camera's there, then what are some things you can do? Can you contact law enforcement to say, hey, there's cameras here and someone's tracking me? What
Yeah,
can you do at that point?
that's one way of doing it. Taking a picture of it, but leaving everything in its original state as much as you can while you get that help. Having someone come in and say, I've located a camera in my home. It's not, no one has permission to have a camera in my home. Making the report, letting them take care of it. That's definitely, at least you have it documented. Because a lot of times you say, oh, a camera, if you ripped it out, they're like, well, we don't know if that camera was there or not. And it sounds horrible, because it's first instinct you want to do is just destroy something that you find that's invading your privacy. But it's really important to have it documented and have someone who has authority to document something for you, do that. Taking pictures of things, even if you're like, if it's a boyfriend who just, leaving flowers out your car, texting you nonstop, screenshots, and then I say print them out. The other thing is like, someone has access to your phone, they can delete stuff off your phone as well. If they have, depending on what their access is to your, your actual device, the stuff that you're screenshotting, they can just be like, delete, if it's in their cloud and they have your cloud password. So I always tell people, don't share your passwords with partners. People don't need to know your password. It can go so bad with giving people passwords, like, you love them now, but tomorrow, what if something bad happens? What's the first thing that person might do? I don't know. But I don't want them to be in control of my family, my friends, everyone who sees my, social media kind of thing. So, staying safe in that regard. And then you can use law enforcement, having law enforcement have your back and be able to document these things. And, they are the ones who can do fingerprints and thus far go, kind of move forward. So, but yeah, just hold yourself back if you actually, you identify one. Don't just rip it out, because that's your evidence, and it's your word against someone else, and they're like, who is it? Do you know who it is? And it's so hard to just, track that back to someone in particular. So, whatever you can do to save evidence is a good thing, and do it safely. So staying safe is the biggest thing. It's hard to tell people stay safe and let a camera run in your home, but at the same time, it's like, what will the person do if you remove that camera? What happens next? And so, not to make it like everything gets worse, but they wanted access to you for a reason, and now if they lose the access, they're going to figure out a way to get access back. And so you just want to try to stay safe and all as much as possible throughout any of these circumstances.
And it's interesting that you bring up like how you know that someone's doing this, cuz like I think when we were talking last, you were talking about he would smoke in your car, or he would break into your car and smoke in there, and that's how you knew that he had accessed that car to put the camera in or whatever he was doing to track you.
Right. Right.
And
Like people leave like little trails of themselves. It's kind of one of those things like let you know that I know that you know that I can get in there. It's like I didn't smoke pot, and so that having that smell in my car very distinctly, like someone had just smoking a joint in your car, you're like, okay, he's a big heavy pot smoker. That's what he did, and so you just instantly knew. And then when he found me in a safe house, I literally had watched him getting out of my car across the street, in a secure parking lot. He was getting out of my car, and it was like I knew he'd been doing it, and everyone's like, how can you prove that? Because he was just getting in there whatever way he was getting entering. He was doing it so inconspicuously. It wasn't like he had to like pick my locks out every time. It was just like it's almost like he just had one of those little remotes reprogrammed and was getting in as easily as that. But yeah, people often do it to like, or I'm really ADHD when it comes to like all my labels facing forward or things like sitting on a shelf and it would just be moved. And it's like, okay, I know I didn't move that, but it was, like I know that 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 I know that you're in here. And so, and so the cops are like, maybe you bumped it. No, I am crazy when it comes to certain things. And this is the way I knew what was happening. And not everyone's like that. I joke because I was in my shower. I'm like, hey, did you put my shower gel? No, why? I'm like, well, it was just turned sideways. I don't think I bumped it. Maybe I did bump it. I don't know. I'll be more careful. I'm like, oh, it's just something I know because it's like that's how I like live my life, and again, still live my life. It's like everything has to be in a specific spot, and then I know like when something's not. And so you'll probably have that same. If someone's going through that, they probably have something similar like that happening. People want them to know that they can do what they're doing. They like to have that fear. That's the whole purpose, is controlling and fearing their victims. So it's
and
a
that's
sad world. It's sad in that respect that people like that's what they live for. But when it comes to
yeah,
stalking, people do it for different reasons. So
yeah, and it's interesting how you say like they're feeding off that fear. And so the trigger is pointing you back to your power, like you said, the camera's there, but you have more power by leaving it there so that you can document the evidence and
right,
really, so it's talking to people like Meg that number one have been there, and then number two that can help you get out, like, and how do you get your power back, and you
yeah,
realize how you consent to giving your power away and how you can consent to taking it back.
yeah. Little by little, I just want to tell people it's not easy. It's one of the worst fights I ever had in my life against myself. Um, just not, it's like every day it just felt like you just like got a hammer over your head, and every day you just get a little bit lower. But when it started coming back, I started getting it back, and like just not giving up is the biggest thing you can do. Like just don't give up, because there is hope on the other side of this. There's a chance. There are people that believe you and want and care about you and want things to succeed for you, want this to go on, want this to stop. So they're going to keep helping you. And just believe that someone else, it really does care, and you get a victim advocate, they really do care, and that they really want the best for you. And they believe you. I mean, it's really hard going through a system where you feel like no one believes you or no one's on your side. And so reach out and get that help. I can't thank them enough, for what they did in my life, as far as just being there for me and being on my side. When you're going to court, or any of the things that have to happen, sometimes you don't have to go all that far, but it's just having someone you can call and then they understand what's going on with you. It's just this big, huge relief. So
Yeah, and I just want to say I don't want people to like not reach out to law enforcement, but sometimes the greatest justice is you taking your sanity back, your own power. And I know there's so many women that they go through the justice system and they're just like exhausted because it takes so long. And, you might have had a chance and you drop the charges, and then another chance comes again. And to go through that mentally and emotionally to get the justice, sometimes the justice is really within, and it's
Totally.
the little things, like you said,
Keep her
fighting for
frozen.
your life and for your sanity and your
Are you
health
there?
and for your children. Did I lose you for a second?
I'm gonna keep smiling.
Hello? You're frozen. Oh, we lost her. Let's see if we can get her back.